Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Leuchenzee Zoo. And today we are going to continue with the two bear habitats, and this time we are going to build for the sloth bear. This bear habitat will be similar to the first habitat of the sun bears, but this time I wanted to go with more of a run down, broken down temple look instead of this really fresh temple. And I also decided to use different rocks to keep a little bit more variety between the two bear habitats. So let's get started. And before we start to dive into this speed build, I firstly wanted to say Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year's. I haven't been on YouTube since a little bit before Christmas. Or even like last time in November, I believe. It's already like over a month, almost two, since I've been here on YouTube. I didn't really plan on doing so, but I guess life happened. So still a Happy New Year. I hope you got into the new year nicely and smoothly. And definitely tell me, what is the new year looking like for you? It's already 1 month into the new year, and for me personally, I did have some changes, and I definitely wanted to be quicker on YouTube than the end of January, but I guess it didn't work out. This habitat actually took me a bit longer than I thought, and then also sitting down, starting to edit it, and as I'm doing now, doing the voiceover, took me so long. I didn't know why exactly, to be honest, because the sun bear habitat went really smoothly and quickly, but this time it took me a bit longer because I was doing it like in little chunks. I barely built longer than for like an hour at a time, so it took me a couple of days to build this, and then editing this video took me another day, and now sitting down and doing the voiceover, knowing that this video is over 30 minutes long, I was like kind of pushing it back further and further. But I really wanted to come back, so it was like fighting with myself, being back on YouTube, but also dreading the work of editing and doing this voiceover. But now I'm here doing it, so I finally did it. And yeah, as I said, in the new year there's a little bit of some changes that came with the new year. And I also have like not really New Year's resolutions. I don't really like New Year's resolutions because it feels like you only do it like once a year, and if you're not doing it in the first week of January, then you're dumping your New Year's resolutions already. So I still have like plans and goals for this year, but I am not like these typical standard New Year's resolutions. For example, I did start working out back in September already, and of course I want to keep going and even be a little bit better with my workout routine this year. And same with YouTube, I want to get back more to YouTube than I used to be last year. Last year was like really rough, I would say, when it came to my YouTube schedule. I was like going back and forth, having like big timeouts from like 3 months. So I definitely want to get better. But as you can tell, it didn't really came out the way I wanted to. It's already the end of January, and it's my first video for this year, so I'm quite late, but it's absolutely okay. I can still do better the rest of the year and in the next month. So I'm definitely trying to get better and be a little bit more consistent. I'm not trying to have like the plan of uploading a video every week, because I'm definitely not able to do so at the time. As I said, I'm got back on working out, so I am like in the gym for at least 3 times a week. And if I'm like working 8 hours going to the gym, I'm gone for like 2 to 3 hours with driving back and forth, showering, eating, and in those days I have absolutely no time to even start my PC. So there's like already 3 days that I can absolutely not do anything for Planet Zoo. And then the rest of the week I also have like different plans. So I'm definitely not trying to do videos once a week, but I definitely want to get a little bit better with my schedule and not posting every 2 or 3 months only. And I'm also really excited what will come next with Planet Zoo this year, because we know that there will be at least one more DLC. So I will definitely get better with my schedule once the next DLC is out, depending on what type of DLC it will be. Because in the beginning we had like really themey DLCs. For example, it was like a barnyard, it was a continent, or different kind of themes. And the last DLC that we got, the Zookeeper's Animal Pack, was just basically random animals that were wished for by the community, which is absolutely great, but there's no theme in there. And I found it really, really hard to build for this DLC, because I just kept going back and forth between different areas, and normally I like to stay within one area. As for the barnyard animal pack, I decided to do a little petting zoo, and so I could do all animals back to back in one part of the zoo. And having a variety of different animals that come from different continents, different biomes, that are not really connected to one another, it's hard to build for them if you don't even have a section that you can put them in. And if you only have one animal for this section, it's already hard to start a section for one animal and then stopping this whole project and going back to a different section. So it's really hard, but I'm excited what's coming next with Planet Zoo and the next DLCs. And if we will get a Planet Zoo 2 in the future, I definitely hope so, and I strongly believe that we will get one, but I think it's gonna take a couple more years till we will be able to get a new Planet Zoo game. But for that time being, I will definitely stay with Planet Zoo, and I also have a different game in the pipeline, I would say, where I am going to be playing it in the alpha. It's also a zoo game, but I don't want to spoil anything. I also wanted to text the creators of this game, because it's more of a bit smaller studio, if they are okay with me posting the alpha on YouTube and stuff like that. But it's gonna take a little bit of time, but you will definitely see that game on my channel in the future. But now, going back to the new year, I wanted to ask you how you're doing in the new year, how you started this new year 2025, and if you maybe have any New Year's resolution, what you are expecting from this new year. So definitely let me know in the comments. Let's start a little bit of a conversation between one another, what we expect and what we are getting from 2025. Now coming back to the actual builds that we are doing right now. As I said, we are building for the sloth bears. In the last episode, we were building the sun bears that are right next door. So I did copy a lot of the pieces that I used for the sun bear habitat, because this whole section of this part of the zoo, I would say, is connected to one another. So it should be a little bit more cohesive. I saw this in the Cologne Zoo. I didn't really take any like major inspiration from that, but I just had this vision from the Cologne Zoo, where they had these connected habitats to one another, and they both shared like the same moat and stuff like that. So I try to somewhat recreate it, I would say, even though it's not really a recreation of that. But that's why I wanted to have both of the sides a little bit more cohesive. So we have the same barriers, we have both of them the wet moats, and we also have the same fencing around. But for the decoration of the like background, the temple that's also serving as the backstage area for the animals and the stuff, I wanted to have a little bit more of a variety, because I didn't want them to look too similar, because we already have two like somewhat similar looking bears in there. We have the same structure of the like basic habitat, and then I didn't really want to have the same backdrop for both of the habitats. And so I decided to use different rocks with the sloth bears. So with the sun bears I used the temperate biome rocks, so more of the grayish ones. And with this one I used the tropical rocks, which are more of a brownish tone. I also was searching up on Pinterest for broken down temples and similar things that reminded of like really old temples and overgrown pieces. And there I saw one picture. I don't know where exactly it was, but it basically was just a little bit of a water feature with a wall and these little like stairs. And that's what I took for inspiration for basically the whole theming. And that's why I used these temple rock pieces as a border to the water feature or the water moat. With the sun bears, I just use natural rocks to keep basically the soil back from dropping down into the moat. And this time I used the temple pieces or temple rocks. And I also included this little stair feature. It was supposed to be able for the bears to get in and out of the water feature. Even though it's a wet moat, the animals can definitely use it to play and bath in there or to cool down in the summer. And of course, if one of the bears should be falling into the wet moat so that they can get out of it easily. That's also something that I always need to remind myself of, that when I'm using a wet or dry mode, that there is an option for the animal if it's going to fall in there to get out of the mode. Because if you are having like a potentially dangerous animal falling into a mode and not being able to get out of there on its own, keepers just can't go in, pick it up and bring it out, for example with a bear or with like a big cat or something. So of course with like a raccoon you can just pick it up, bring it out, but with the sloth bear you wouldn't be able to do so. So the sloth bear needs to be able to get out of the moat. So definitely keep these things in mind if you are building a habitat with a moat so that the animal can get out of it. And of course we are having bears, so they are also getting a climbing feature. This time I wanted to create a different climbing frame than I did for the sun bears. I didn't really feel like just copy pasting it over there because, as I said, I wanted to have a little bit more of a variety between both of the habitats so they still look interesting, not only for the visitors of the zoo, but of course also for you watching this video, because you seeing me build basically the same habitat twice would be pretty boring, I would say. So I always try to have a little bit of a variation in there. And instead of big rock piles, I wanted to also have some temple pieces lying around and broken down through the habitat. And for this we have pretty nice pieces, but unfortunately the bigger pieces like the stairs and this one wall, they are not recolorable. So we only have the red pieces that we can recolor. And unfortunately, we do not have the exact same pieces in the red recolorable color than we have with these like, I would say grayish beige color stones. I don't know why Frontier decided to not give us the option for all of those pieces, because some of them are really pretty, especially for this theme that I was going for in here. But you can technically recreate those with the smaller pieces that we have. As you have seen there, I basically put down this little corner piece and tried to recreate it with the smaller pieces that we have. When it came to the foliage work of the habitat, I tried to keep it actually similar to the sun bear habitat. They somewhat share the same habitat in the wild, so I tried to use similar plants. So I basically just kept going back to the sun bear habitat, copying one of the plants, placing it down throughout the whole sloth bear habitat, and going back and forth using different plants to keep it cohesive. As I said, I tried to keep the differences only with the structure of, or not really the structure, but like the base layout of the habitat when it came to the temple pieces, the climbing frame, and then I tried to keep it similar to the sun bear habitat. And as always, I always start by placing down the rocks. I also quickly did like a little blueprint of these little bigger rock piles, I would say, not these little pebble piles that I use from Caesar, but the bigger rock piles with a little bit of grass in between. It just helps to basically lay out the habitat a little bit. And also at the beginning, I always start by drawing with a different colored terrain tool where the bears would typically walk around throughout the habitat. So that helps me with deciding where exactly to put bigger pieces or piles of foliage and rocks, and where to keep the habitat a little bit more open so that the animals, of course, can traverse throughout the whole habitat. And after deciding where exactly I want to have like bigger piles of foliages or like clumps of foliage, I then start by placing down buffalo grass. I always group them together, place them throughout the whole habitat where the bears would typically not walk around a lot, and then sink that down a little bit into the ground so it looks a bit more natural. Then I start this whole process again with a different group of buffalo grass. I place them in the or around the edges of those areas where the animals would not traverse, and also lower that down a little bit more than the first layer. And then normally I also do a third layer where I place grasses in areas where the animals would typically walk around a lot, and then I use this lower layer and lower it down into the ground the most, so just the tips of the grasses are peeking out, so there's a little bit of interesting things to look at, even if these paths are used a lot by the bears, because I feel like really open areas where there's basically just soil or just the terrain paint, it looks really boring in my opinion. So I try to break these really open pieces up, and by placing grass really low into the ground, you can also use dried up grass so it looks a little bit more like trampled, and to use a few pebbles, because of the soil is not like completely just soil. There will be little rocks and pebbles in between the soil, maybe even a little of branches, really small branches. So you could also use the dried up bushes and lower it down into the ground so it looks like there's a little bit of something in the ground. Speaking of foliage work and terrain work in general, I definitely want to also post tutorials on my channel, but I definitely struggle with finding out what exactly I should be doing a tutorial of, because I feel like I show quite a lot in my speed builds, but of course they are speed builds. So in a tutorial I would do it in like a real time where I would build something. But I really struggle trying to figure out what exactly I should do a tutorial of, because I feel like there are already so many tutorials, and I don't really want to do like basic tutorials about the basic mechanics of the game, because the game is quite old. There are so many tutorials about the mechanics of this game, so I feel like it's totally not up to date. But more of like creative type of tutorials on how to do this and that, how I do this, how I decide to do something like that. So if you wish to have tutorials, and if you know what tutorials I could do, definitely let me know down in the comments. I would love to do more tutorials. I have one on my channel, literally just one. It's been, I believe, my second video on this channel, or like really early. It could be my second ever video on this channel. And as I was starting YouTube, I definitely wanted to do tutorials, and back then I was doing videos twice a week. So I thought maybe once a week a speed build and once a week a tutorial. I did one tutorial and never did one ever again, because I did not know what exactly to do. So definitely let me know, and I will do so many tutorials if you tell me what you want to see. So we are almost finished with the outside area of this habitat. This time I also wanted to have this little waterfall, and I thought the waterfall could be like basically fueling up the wet moat with water, and then from the sloth bear the water would flow down to the sun bears, and there it would be collected and I don't know, repumped back to the water feature. You will later see probably in the cinematics that behind this waterfall there's like a water system where it's cleaning the water and pumping it into the wet moat. I didn't really think that it was super interesting on how I built that because it's just one block of concrete. I used one of these water filtration system under the facility tab, I believe. So you'll definitely see it. It's behind this waterfall because, yeah, it's pumping down the water behind the waterfall, but I didn't really show it, and the video is already so long, so I thought I had to cut out some pieces of this video, because if not, the video would have been so long, even though it's already sped up quite a bit. In the sun bear habitat video, we also started doing the backstage area. I basically just laid out the basic structure of the building and did the sun bear backstage area, or their little like cages or backstage rooms, I would say, where they could be kept in during like maintenance, or if one of the animals was sick or something. So you didn't really see a lot of the backstage in the first video, but in this video I'm going to show a little bit more of the staff facility backstage. For the sloth bears, I basically just copy pasted the sun bear backstage area. It's exactly the same one, and so I decided to just show you the staff facility. And this time I thought the whole building is pretty enormous, to be honest. It was like a bit bigger than I anticipated, so I thought, why not do like a really nicely detailed fancy cold storage room. And I also thought that this whole building could be used to also store and prepare the food for other animals in the tropical area or section of the whole zoo. So I thought, why not have like a little bit of a bigger storage room and a bigger like preparation area where the staff could like prepare the food for the animals, because the building is really huge and the bears didn't really need that much of space. So I decided to do so I don't have like a lot of small backstage areas throughout the zoo for each of the habitats, and rather just one big area where the staff can prepare and store most of the things, and then they would just go with their little buckets, go over to the next habitats and feed the animals. As you can see here, I am starting with the cold storage room. I was looking up pictures of storage room and like feeding kitchens from zoos, and I saw this one picture and tried to just recreate the shelves and the base look of it. So here you can see me preparing all the different like buckets and these, I don't know how exactly they are called in English, where they can store the food. I prepared a variety of them with different kinds of fruits and veggies, and then I just copied this whole bucket into the shelves. And you can also download the whole cold storage room and the separate little props and pieces in one blueprint on the Steam workshop. It is linked down below. It has been posted, I believe, a week or two ago, because I really loved the outcome and I couldn't wait to post it on the Steam workshop. So you might have seen my community post on here on YouTube talking about that, but I definitely want to mention it here too. And you will find the link down in the description so you can download this whole thing. As I said, it's one piece where it's basically the whole cold storage room that you can see here, so the whole interior, and then I just use like blank plaster walls outside, so you can take the whole room and place it into your own like backstage area building that you have. Or you can also use the different pieces, so you have one room, and on top of this room I just place down the different pieces like the shelves and all the little buckets and like fruits and veggies that you can see here that I prepared. They are all in there. And also you will have a little wall piece with just the tiles and also a little floor piece with just the tiles. So you can also completely customize your own room using exactly the same pieces as I did, but in the dimensions and the size and layout that you want. I always catch myself just building things without looking up inspiration. So the version of the backstage area that you see right now is not the first version. I did something else in the beginning, just what came into my head and started building, but it just didn't look right because I wasn't taking inspiration from real life pictures and photos. And as I'm taking or Googling photos of this like cold storage room, I immediately have like a burst of motivation to recreate that. And I always end up loving these results just so much more than the first version. So definitely one of my like tips that I can give you is take inspiration from real life pictures. Look up like cold storage room or something else that you want to recreate and really try to recreate those things. You don't need to copy like the exact layout of the room, for example, but copy the look of the shelves, copy the look of like the kitchen area that they have and what little props and pieces they have laying around in there, because those are sometimes things that you are not thinking about if you're just trying to get the ideas like basically out of your head, I would say. So definitely look these up, because I always catch myself doing things so much better if I'm trying to recreate real life things, and they always end up looking really great in my opinion. So I definitely need to do that more often and look up things before I start building, because I oftentimes end up rebuilding things and wasting time because the first version just didn't look really realistic. And for the rest of the backstage area, as I said, we also have like a little preparation kitchen area or corner where the staff can prepare the foods for the bears and also all different animals that we will have in the tropical section. We also have a shelf with a variety of different like toys and like enrichment items, and we of course also have like a little fridge area where there will be the meat for the animals, because the bears also eat meat of course. And then I DIY'd this little like kitchen area with the new metal piece that we got with the Zookeeper's animal pack. I don't know what exactly it is called right now. Maybe you can see it on screen. I firstly had these like bigger metal plates that we had, and then I remembered that we got these little smaller pieces with the Zookeeper's animal pack, and I love small pieces. You can see like the edges of the pieces in like the whole kitchen, but I honestly don't really mind. And I really enjoyed the look of this whole preparation kitchen. And we are almost at the very end of this episode, but don't end this video yet, because there are some cinematics to come to show you more of the habitat, the backstage area and everything around. So definitely stay tuned and watch the cinematics if you want to see more of the little details that I did with this habitat. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you liked the way I designed the sloth bear habitat, and definitely don't forget to check out my blueprints that I have linked down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss any more of the future upcoming content. I hope to see you in the next episode. Until then, bye guys!